Hi everybody, it's Moses Samasuwo here, and today I wanted to talk to you briefly about the shock involved in first aid and how we should take that into account when we deliver our first aid training. Thanks for logging on once again, and I want to talk to you today about this issue called shock when we get into a first aid situation. I've been surprised in the training that I've attended how very little of it, as far as I can remember, talked about how we feel when we get ourselves into a first aid situation. And this could be at home or indeed in the workplace. And basically, in most cases, the body will go into some level of shock. Some will go into greater shock than others, but essentially our heart rates are going to go up. Our thinking is not going to be as effective as it normally is, because we're in a situation where we're effectively under threat, or someone we love is under threat if it's somebody at home, or the situation we are in, if it's a work situation, is a threatening one and could affect our career if we make the wrong decisions or do the wrong things, etc. So physiologically, our whole system changes and it becomes hard to think. It becomes hard to remember what to do or what we were taught in training, and it becomes hard to act in a calm and systematic manner. It's completely natural, it's normal, and in fact, it's instinctive. And it's something that all training, when it comes to first aid, I think should take into account. So in delivering first aid training, there are three things that I'd like to just mention to you to consider and to think about. And the first thing is, tell people how they're going to feel, possibly, when they go into a first aid situation. Tell them. Now, if you find your daughter or you find your parent at home on the floor, not moving, potentially not breathing, it's not going to be that easy to remember the 9 steps that you were told in training. Your system is going to literally go into overdrive, or it's going to shut down, one of the two. So tell them that this is how they are likely to feel, so that when they feel like that on the day, it's not something that they weren't warned about or something that they entirely didn't envisage. So in my classes, I often ask people if they've ever been in such a situation, and usually there's one or two. And if they're comfortable to do so, I'll ask them to tell us, not necessarily what happened, because it might have been something that they don't want to share, but I'll ask them to tell us how they felt in that situation. And usually people just, smile and begin to shake their head and say to the class, I couldn't think, I couldn't remember anything. Maybe after a little while, they began to act, but initially it was very difficult. So tell people in your class, is my first suggestion, about how their body and their mind might react in such a situation. Then the second thing is to keep the training simple. Of course, any good first aid training, basic life support training, is going to follow the guidelines laid out in the UK Resuscitation Council guidelines. So you can find those on their website, or you're going to follow the Department of Health guidelines, or you're going to follow NICE, which effectively summarize what the UK Resuscitation Council tells us. But as you do that, simplify it. Don't overload people with too much information. Don't overwhelm them with too much complicated jargon and try to show off how much you know about this, that, or the other. Keep it simple. Keep it at a level that people can identify with. Remember, you're not teaching ILS here. You're not teaching immediate life support. You're not teaching advanced life support. You're teaching basic life support. So keep it basic, digestible, and something that people can remember. The third thing is to help people to practice or tell people, remind them that if you're in a work situation and you do have a first aid situation, have a debrief afterwards. Talk about it with the team. Reflect over what went well, what didn't go so well. What can we do next time to improve it? And only debrief, But if you can, go over mock situations with your team as often as you can. Maybe in handover, just spend a few minutes talking about what would we do if a patient began to choke? What would we do if we found a patient with a ligature around their throat? What would we do if we found a patient who had fallen and they had a bleed? Just talk about these things from time to time. It doesn't have to be every week, but from time to time, refreshing and reflecting will help your response when a real life situation occurs, and will help combat the disabling effect that shock can sometimes have. It's Moses Samasuwo here from Incisive Training. Once again, very happy to be speaking to you today. We are here in Hertfordshire doing first aid training, basic life support training, mandatory training, PMVA training, challenging behavior, all the training that I've mentioned within the clinical health environment, and we're always happy to help you. And if you want us to come out to you, if you're further afield, we're happy to talk to you about that. Feel free to get in touch with us either through our website or giving us a ring, and we'll do everything we can in our power to help you out. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.